Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Can you see me
Yeah.
okay? And hear
Yeah.
me? Good.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for um doing this video track. So because I don't want to bother you so lots of time.
No,
So
honestly, it's really fine to I'm really happy to help, honestly.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So I think I propose a few questions about the CV, full time, part time, and the IR35. I think that those things is not familiar with the Hong Kong designer or my students. So if you can tell me a little bit about that, would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's predominantly two markets in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
full-time permanent we call it,
Yeah.
and contractor market.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now I'll talk about the permanent market. The permanent market is where you would have a contract where you're a permanent employee
Mm-hmm.
of a company. Generally, that means that you work for only them and you kind of have that one role, that one job. You just do one job and it's full time Monday to Friday.
Mm-hmm.
What the government does is it goes through a role like that goes through what's called a PAYE scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And the PAYE scheme means that when the company pays you, they also pay a little bit of national insurance to the government,
Mm-hmm.
and all the taxes are dealt with before you get your money.
Yeah.
So effectively, you get your pay, a net pay. So
Mm-hmm.
your gross pay would be, let's say, 100,000.
Yeah.
And your net pay would be the money you actually receive that goes into your bank account, would be all the taxes would already be taken out of it. So effectively, it kind of is sort of processed by the company, and then you get the leftover, which is your actual income, your net income.
Yeah.
So that's why we call it PAYE, because it's going through a government tax scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Contributions through the tax are things like national insurance. There'll also be a pension contribution if you've agreed to put some pension in. Sometimes employers will match your contribution. So if you say I'll put 5% in, they'll put 5% in as well on top. They have a legal obligation to put something in a pension for you as well, even if you don't contribute. So
Okay.
all of that calculation and the money is sorted before. So you just get the money you can then have, like, so you don't have to do anything with it. And often the tax rates for a PAYE contract or a permanent role are a little bit higher. So you generally are paying, depending on your income, but it can be anywhere up to 40% tax.
Yeah.
Like, so you're looking at a little bit lower as you go lower. So if you're sort of if you're a graduate and you're coming in at 30,000 role, you'll be paying lower tax. And as you go up, the tax brackets go up.
Yeah.
So that's how that works. If you contract, so contracting, the terms of a contract are generally more flexible. You're taking on an assignment, so it's more of a specific outcome that you might be wanting to deliver. So they're like, oh, it's a bit like with your house, you would have a gardener just to come in to do a few things in the garden, and they would be clear, like, I want you to do these 5 things and then leave.
Just like project based.
Yeah, a project. It's often a project, or it could be like babysitting and growing a role in order for a perm person to come in.
Oh yeah.
It's often in and around something that's changing in the business. But really what it comes down to when you boil it all down is like, we need a skill set, but only for a shorter period of time. And then we don't want to keep them on the books because you don't want your gardener to move in and join your family. Like, you don't need him at breakfast and you don't need him to sit on the sofa and watch TV with you. He doesn't become, a part of the family. He comes in, he does a job and he goes. So it's generally that kind of idea. Now, what happened, I'll tell you more about the role and then a bit about the history of it. But there's two types of contract type. There's two contract types. What, and you touched on this, inside and outside IR35. Actually, there's 3. There's also what we call FTC, full-time. What is it? FTC, fixed term contract. So I'll come back to that. But the two inside outside, what that IR35 is a legislation that's been around for a long, long time. It's always been there. And what it says really is if you're hiring this person to actually come and do what's more of a BAU role, or more of a if you're going to adopt this person into your family, then really the government says, well, we should be getting our PAYE tax. So you can't just use contractors as a way to avoid, certain obligations. So the government was saying, well, you can only hire contractors if they are actually just coming in to do a discrete piece of work, and if they are a specific skill set that you can't hire full time and that you only need for a short period of time. So IR35 says if your role is more BAYE, BAU, business as usual. So it would be like a manager leading a team, or somebody going in who's like just running one process over and over, something that's more an ongoing job that would stay in the company forever, then they're saying, well, that's not a contract role.
Yeah.
That's a PAYE role. So we're going to put that inside IR35, and that person can still work for you, but they have to go through the same PAYE process. So we do that through an umbrella company.
Yeah.
And there's companies out there that run that service for us, and we sign you up, and you're actually still getting the net pay after tax, the same as a normal person, same as a permanent person. But what it means is that they can still just only have you for 6 months if they want. So this role has popped up. We only need them for 6 months, but we'll do them through the PAYE process. So the government gets their money. That's what that's about. Outside IR35 is the gardener, who you don't want them to move in. The role's not going to carry on forever. It's only you only need him to pull up some weeds and put up a shed. It's like a very, it's a discrete piece of work. And really what they're saying is the same as a builder or a gardener or someone who's going to come and paint your house. Or, I always use those sort of ideas because they're so simple to understand. If you're going to go and do a piece of work for a company that's sort of like a contract, like the term contractor really came from the building industry, because you would get in a contract, a contract landscape person or a contract bitumen person or a contract, chippy or whatever. And it's a specific skill. I want you to come and build my kitchen cabinets, and I can't do it. I don't need a kitchen cabinet builder forever. I just need it for one day. And so that's called outside IR35. There's some other rules involved with it. What I'll do is I'll send you a link to the government. There's like a questionnaire you can go through, and you can say, you could run it yourself just to have a look at what the questions are. And at the end, it gives you a determination. So you would go, are you working with your own laptop? Yes. Are you working on your own terms? Yeah. Can you come to and from work when it suits you? Yes. Are you managing a team? No. Are you part of the board or do you have an executive role? No. So then at the end, it'll say, we deem this contract would most likely be outside IR35.
Okay.
So I'll send you that link, and you can run through and see what kind of characteristics determine it. Now, what that means, if it's outside, is the person who's the contractor, like I've done this myself. If you were contracting and ended up contracting, you would have to set up a limited company, which only costs £80 in the UK. You set up a limited company, you go into company's house and you pick a name and you just sort of register it. And then instead of getting a pay packet, you send the company an invoice every month to say, I did 19 days at my day rate of £450 a day. And so my invoice needs you to pay me X. And so the company will pay you your invoice the same way gardener would. The trickier bit about that is that then you need to work with an accountant in the UK who will prepare your end of year reports. So you have to put in VAT returns and end of year reports. So you need to then calculate the tax you owe on that money. Okay. So if I'm charging £450 a day and that invoice is paid, and let's say I've got £10,000 from my month, I then have to figure out how much to send the government, because it's like pre-tax money. So then, but as a company, I still need to pay corporation tax, VAT, and I'll have to pay personal income tax. So they're the three taxes you need to work out as a business owner. And if you don't do that, you get in lots of trouble with HMRC. But because contracting is so there's a lot of it happening in the UK, a lot. I would say probably 20 or 30% of the jobs in the UK could possibly be contractors. You know, so when you walk into a business, you go into a meeting, there'll be 3 contractors and 4 perm people in one room. Nobody knows. And so there's a lot of advice and support for people setting up their businesses, and you can't go too far wrong, because everybody, all the companies out there have gone, oh, you're contracting, I'll help you do all of your reporting and things. And they're not expensive. £100, £150 a month, and they'll help you with all of that.
Okay.
So it is very lucrative. So as a contractor, you might be able to earn £150,000 a year for the same job as someone's earning 80,000 as a perm. So it is lucrative. You do earn more money. The tax rates are lower. You end up paying more like 20% tax instead of 40% tax on a high income. So it is better. And that's why a lot of companies went that way, to make their roles attractive. But then the government went, but we're missing out on all this tax. So they put in the, so IR35 has always been there. The only reason it's different now is because it used to be the responsibility of the contractor to state whether they were inside or outside. And now they've made it the responsibility of the company.
Okay.
So the company can get sued by HMRC if they don't get that determination correct. So that's where the liability and the risk comes. And that's why more roles are being pushed inside at the moment, because companies are scared of being taken to court. So does that help a bit with the IR35 kind of and contract perm thing?
Yeah. So in terms of the, if I take a job that outside IR35, so I can take as much as I can, right? So it's not limited, just like a full-time or just working for one employer. But if I taking IR35 contract works, so I can take as, if I ability, I can do what I can do. I can just take as much as I can.
Yeah, you can run 3 contracts if you want. You can run 2. It depends, like, you know, if you're charging a day rate, you need to have done the day's work. But I met a guy once when I was out and about networking, who was running 5 outside contracts. And he'd said to his customers, because his skill set was so in demand and his experience, he was very unique. And he would say to his clients, I'm working for other clients as well, but you will get me equivalent of 3 days a week, and I'm always available to, I'm always accessible. Okay. And so he would do extra work in the evenings, but also juggle sort of, you know, the needs of his clients, be in the key meetings, but not there all the time. So you can juggle more than one. I've had a contract that was 2 days a week and then 3 days a week, so that I could juggle my own business that I was running on the side. So it gives you more flexibility. Technically, you should be able to turn to do the work when you want. You can do it on a Sunday if you want. Technically, as long as the work's done by the deadline, they shouldn't be able to dictate to you that you need to be sat at a desk or doing the work, you know, in their office or anything like that. You should be able to do it anyway. Like, you should be able to be in Thailand and work for somebody if you want to.
So in most of the, because I see lots of a job post on the website, they said it's outside IR35. Most of the day is just a pay by day. Is it using, is it normal or?
So it's normally a day rate, and that's a flat day rate. If you're going through a recruitment company like us, we'll put a little bit on top, because we have to administer the contract. We have to put it through. So if you were to contract through me to Go City, for example, then I would have a contract with you and I would be paying your invoice, but I would be then invoicing Go City. So I'm the go-between. So to administrate that, I put a little fee on top, and we also finance it. So when we get the contract through, we can get the finance company to send us the money straight away, because it's 30-day payment terms. So we cover all of that for you. So you could get a contract for 500 to you, but the client might be paying 550 so that I can do the job in between. So it's normally a day rate. There is another type, and this is interesting for designers like yourself. There is another kind of work where it's called Giga platforms. It's on the rise in the UK, and I'm in touch with a person who's very much involved with helping companies to build strategies to tap into Giga, what we call Gigas. And what this would be is, rather than we want you 3 days a week or 5 days a week, it would be more, can you complete this one design job? And that might take you 6 hours or 10 hours, and you could break that down to an hourly rate. And so there's these really good Giga platforms. I'll send you, I'm just taking my actions here. Send information about Giga platforms. What's happening is, in the UK, there's a skills shortage at the moment across most skills, to be honest, especially technology development. I don't know specifically about design, but you could probably do some research. But these platforms, they're highly vetted candidates. So if you were to come and join the platform, they put you through rigorous vetting. And that's really important, because when somebody goes to that platform, they need to know that they're going to get the skills and the quality that they're really looking for. And they'll sign into the platform and say, I'm looking for somebody who's got digital, product design in these sectors XYZ, and your name will come up. Okay, let me contact Ken. Ken, I've got a piece of work. This is the parameters of the work. Can you do that for me? Yes, I can do it for you by next Wednesday. And you do short, smaller pieces of work. You can take on as many as you want, as long as you get it in by the deadline agreed. And then they will just pay you a one-off invoice for that work. So you might say, that design cost me £6,000 to build for you, and they'll just pay you £6,000, and then it'll be, thanks very much, bye, see you later. A bit like buying a meal at a restaurant. You know, again, we don't contract with the restaurant up the road, but we buy their food and then we walk out. And I think this is helping companies to share skills. It's like almost like skill sharing. Like, if I have a use case for somebody who can build me, an engineer who can build me my use case within this sprint, and I don't have somebody that has that skill, why do I employ them? Why can't I go to a Giga platform and just get someone to build that one use case for me and then go away? So there's these Giga platforms. I've got a list of what they're called, some of them. And they're worth having a look into, especially for your young designers, because it's a bit like Fiverr, but a more professional version of Fiverr. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
A lot of companies, including the big consultancies, are starting to have their own Giga platforms, and they're starting to utilize more flexible skills and resources, even another step away from contracting, even more, more about specific pieces of work, which I think is quite interesting, and it's a growing trend in the UK.
You're just like a freelancer. Yeah.
It's freelancing. Yeah. But I think what's different is these platforms are starting to successfully manage the relationships for people to go and buy those skills. But like I said, the key to them working is really, really, really good vetting. So they only take on the real deal. People who fancy being a designer, they won't get on. They have to prove that they are, actually a top-notch skilled person.
Okay. So what happens if the client is not satisfied about the work?
That would be a dispute. That would be a dispute between the tradesman and the client. If you provide an invoice in the UK and you can prove you've done the work, you can generally take them to small claims court and say, this person hasn't paid my invoice. Can you please order them to? So you do have protection in the law. If you've raised a legitimate invoice and you can show the work was done, generally though, I would say it probably would go through an iteration, and the client would come back and say, actually, we said we wanted this in with more more blue tones across all of our work, and you turn up with something yellow, and you can probably go, oh, I'll go and fix that for you at my own cost, and you fix it for them.
Okay, I see. So if I take outside IR35, I have the responsibilities. I need to, I need to recruit accountants to help me to do all the tax related issues, right?
So every quarter, if you're earning above 80,000 through your limited company, you need to be VAT registered. So then you charge VAT to your client. So if you're charging 500 a day, you then add 20%. So it'd be like 660 or something. So you add 20%, and then the client pays you the whole amount, and you've got to pass that VAT onto the government.
Okay.
So every quarter you do a VAT return, and that will tell you how much, and then you literally just have a bank account for the government and you send your VAT money to them. But technically you've taken it off the client and handed it back to the government, so you're just a go-between for VAT. You keep the 500, but you've charged them VAT and you've sent it to the government. That's effectively how that works.
Oh, I see.
Unless there's expenses, and you also can expense things if you're driving your car around for client work, you can expense your car, or if you have lunch out in London, you can expense things like that. And what that does is it allows you to draw down tax-free money to put back in your pocket because you paid for your client to have a coffee or whatever. So there's expenses that run through, and sometimes the VAT on the expenses can balance off the VAT that you charge. So it can be a little bit up and down, but it's generally 20% in, 20% out, in general. But the accountant will do that for you. There's also great software. If you use like Xero, the accounting software, you can do it all yourself. It's really straightforward. The other tax is dividend tax. So you have a business bank account and your personal bank account, and the client will pay your invoice into your business bank account. So the business owns that money. You don't own it yet. The business is separate to you. So the business is who gets paid. But you need to pay yourself. So you can draw money out to yourself into your private bank account, but there's a tax when you do that. It's called dividend tax. So you're paying yourself a dividend, and the government would like a little bit of that. Thank you. So as they always do. So you have to declare your dividends. This year I drew down £50,000 dividends. So I owe the government 10,000. It's about that kind of level. So that's your contribution to the roads and the hospitals and the education and all of the things that we get in this country. So you do pay dividend tax. Then at the end of the year, you look at the profit in your business and you go, well, I made 100,000 and my expenses were very low, and my dividends to me were 50 or 60,000. My profit was X, £15,000 profit, and you pay corporation tax on that as well. Again, it all adds up to less than a PAYE job. So you still get more of your money, but there's a couple of taxes so that's annually. You have to work out your dividend tax and your corporation tax, send that off to the government. So the key is to keep that to one side, not spend it. Don't spend that. Then you just have it to pay your bills at the end of the year. But there's a lot of accountants in this country who will just run this really smoothly for you, and all you have to do is sign the report at the end of the year and then pay your money. You've sorted it all out. And that's for any company. If you're a gardener, if you're a builder, if you're in all of those things that we mostly associate with contracting in our heads. You're a mechanic, or you're whatever, you have to do all that same thing. You're just running a business the same way, a cafe, a restaurant, anybody.
Okay. So in terms of the benefits, okay, so outside IR35, I think is because if it compares to a permanent staff, I suppose the benefit is better. Other than the salary, you still have some extra benefits from the company. So
as a contractor, you generally don't get given benefits. You miss out on things like healthcare. They won't do that for you. They won't do car allowances. It's just the day rate. With the permanent contracts, you will get a benefits package, and it can include a bonus or a car allowance, or it can include whatever they decide to put in there. A holiday every year, I don't know. Depends what they want to give you.
Okay, but outside, is that you're more flexible? So you can manage your own business. You can.
And to be honest, you can, if you were to buy your own benefits, like if you want healthcare, private healthcare, you pay for it from your limited company, and it's tax-free to pay for that sort of thing. So if you take your company and your private bank account and you pay out of your business bank account pension, your own pension and your own healthcare, that all comes as an expense. So that brings your corporation tax down. So there's actually, you can buy your own benefits and then reduce your tax liability. So there is some benefit in looking at getting your own pension and your own healthcare and your own car, running your own car through your business, because then it's tax free.
Okay, so So do you think is more people who go to outside IL-35? You see the trends or something?
That's what people want. Like people will call me and say, I'm looking for a contract, but I'm looking for outside because they get more money and they're doing the same job. And also if their skill set suits doing, what we call statements of work packages, they're a project manager or they're a program manager. They don't really want to do the type of job that's like more of a process, running a process or running a team. That's not really what interests them either. So, it might be the same for designers. I guess a designer might decide, I'd rather do specific projects rather than sitting in a company and doing just one company the whole time. So I think there's on the surface it looks like they're after more money, but the truth is it's more complicated than that. They also don't want to become part of the family. They don't want to go to the summer party. They just want to do the work and go home. They're a lot less company and a lot more specific in their skills. So there's a legitimacy to wanting to just do outside work.
I see. Okay, great. Yeah, I think it's very useful. Yeah, so because in Hong Kong, I think it's a lot of designers doing multiple role, multiple projects at the same time. So we do lots of freelance. But of course, the task calculation is not just I don't know, so it's less complicated than UK maybe. Okay,
maybe.
So I think I need to remind them. So it's a little bit when you consider inside and outside, you also need to take care about your task arrangement, and also
there are companies you can go to. I'll see if I can send you an example, but don't just go to them because shop around an example company, and they'll do everything. So if you call them and say, I'm looking to contract outside, they'll set up your company, they'll run all of your reporting, all they'll do is tell you this month you can draw down 5,000 in dividend. Like they literally will like be your accountant. And I think when you start, it's definitely worth doing it with the support. It costs you a little bit, but it still ends up better. You still end up better off. It's worth doing it with the support and go through 1 or 2 years of that. And then you figure out how to do it yourself. And then you're kind of safe and you're not going to get fined. If you miss reports and miss VAT payments and miss paying your corporation tax, the government can start fining you and it gets all a bit messy. So you're better to try and work with someone who gets it. And they make it so easy for you. They're really fantastic. They're really good, those companies.
Good. Okay. All right. So I think the last thing is I talked a little bit about the CV. About the do you have any tips for what kind of informations can catch your eye, other than just all the basic skills, background, experience? So just
CVs in the UK I think are really different from other countries. Like I came from Australia and I had this really beautiful CV that I made like colorful and I put it in a nice file and it was like 15 pages and I turned it into a book about me. And in the UK they were like, do not do this. It's like, for some reason, it's just, if you can get it on 2 pages, 3 max. So that's the first thing. Try and get it into a short document. It's black and white. I mean, as a designer, though, I would say I've seen some nice CVs like your own that are, like, have some design in them. And I think that's nice because of your type of role. So don't not make them snappy and looking pro, but don't, like, what I did was put a cover on it and I turned it, and that's what we do in Australia. But for a designer, what you did was great. I loved what you did, but a couple of pages max. The information in there is really, like you say, your skills and your experience. It's kind of just really bare bones. What I tend to do, and I'll send you my CV so you can have a look at what I mean.
Sure. Thank you.
For example,
what I tend to do is put the company I've worked with and then a little short 2 lines max about what that company does. So it might be like ASOS online fashion retailer. And then when somebody's reading it, they can see, if they haven't heard of that company, they can see clearly what they do. 1 line, 2 lines max. Shell, major global petroleum company, just something small. And then really clearly what you did. So I was responsible for leading a team of 6, producing all of the outputs for this project. But again, no more than like 3 or 4 bullet points for each role, focusing in on the really good stuff that you want them to read about. And that's it, really. A small summary at the top, telling them a bit about you. And then if you've got a long history, like I'm getting old now, so my history gets really long. I put my top, I haven't done this yet, but I probably should. You should put your top sort of most recent 3 or 4 years of information. And then people put previous work history, and they just list each role out by 1 bullet. So, head of change at blah, strategic leader of XYZ. That's it. No more information. So one of the things I see from CVs from overseas is they're very long. You've got like 1 job per page, and it's just too much. People just need to be able to skim read it and get a view. If you're going for a certain job, I would also say tailor your CV every time. So when you send it for a particular job, go through and, because it's hard to capture everything. Like I could write a CV now that has recruitment, a recruitment look and feel, consultancy, or I could make it look like a director's CV because I've been a director. I could make it look like a change manager's CV, a project manager's CV. So depending on the job I'm going for, I tailor it, and each of my roles, I pull out the specific thing I want them to see. So if you're going for a UX role and you're actually a UX/UI person, drop the UI and pull out all of your UX experience and send them a tailored CV. That's what I would suggest. And then what they're doing, all they're really doing is reading it, looking for words that they're familiar with. UX, Visio, this kind of design package, brilliant. Photoshop, Adobe, okay, I can see everything I want to see. I'll call them. It's really quick. People won't spend more than, I would say, a minute and a half reading a CV. Yeah, that's it. They're not going to read a story. They just want to have words jump out at them that they like. Really. They'll read the summary and then they'll go like, all right, great. Azure, brilliant, architecture, perfect. Okay, I'll ring them. And they probably don't even read the second page a lot of the time. So the first page is key. Yeah.
All right.
And the other final thing is not to repeat. So if you've been a project manager, or let's say portfolio manager, if I've been a portfolio manager and I put that in my first role, I don't repeat it again in my other roles. Even if I've done it, I don't bother repeating that experience. I want to get in as many different things as I can, rather than repeating. So I see CVs where it goes project manager at Intel, built the business case, delivered the business case, delivered the business benefits, resourced the project, led the project. And then they go project manager at Michael Page, built the business case, delivered the business, and it's the same again. That repeating isn't helpful. So try and put something different for each role so that they can see a really good combination of things that you've done.
Okay, cool. So if for example, if my students apply the job and they still stay in Hong Kong. So do you think, is there anything that will, I don't know, so because they may not have the UK phone number, for example. So they will just put, okay, here's my Hong Kong number. Is it anything they need to put to make sure even they're already still stay in Hong Kong, they still have a chance to grab your eye, so to enhance the chance to get the interview?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I haven't done a lot of hiring overseas, but I have worked in companies. Like I worked at Essential, and there was a centralized design team. I actually centralized the design team, and they had a designer in Hong Kong, and but he was working as a perm for that company. So they must have deliberately gone to Hong Kong to find somebody to start building their, Asia Pacific the Asia Pacific practice, and they sent him a computer and all of his. They sent him a phone, and they sent him everything he needed. What would jump out at me? I think I generally avoid calling people that are overseas because there's often complications, but that might not be representative of the market and of other recruiters. Can you get a UK number? So you might want to. It's very cheap to set up like an app phone number, like a circle loop or something like that. It might be worth doing for like, it's like a $5 a month, and you can set up a web-based 0208 number or mobile number that looks like a UK number, and when they call you, they're calling you through like a VoIP, like an app, instead of through your phone provider. It could be worth a try. It could be, I'd probably suggest it's worth a try. And then be really clear on your CV at the top, based in Hong Kong, but looking for UK contract work to do remotely. Just put that at the top. And then I would think, oh, right, I'll call that person because they obviously are experienced in running jobs overseas. And if my client's open to working with somebody that's overseas and they can run their contract from over there, why not? Why not? I've got a person at the moment who's working with an engineering team, and she has decided, because of the skills gap in the UK, to build her team from people all over the world. She's got people in Brazil, people in Canada, people, in Asia, all over the world. And she's got like 30 engineers all working on the same project. And I think that's quite clever. And I think we might see more people doing that, because of the skills gap.
Cool. All right. So great. Yeah, I think it's more than enough. Okay, just a very thank you for your information. I think I just need to digest a little bit, okay, to see how I
can, it was a lot.
Pass those informations to the students. But it's great. Yeah, it's great to talk to you.
If you need anything else, or if you want to ask any more questions, just let me know. I'll ping you through a few links to the IR35 information on the government website. I'll send you the information about the Giga platforms in the UK. Now, I think they will be more international as well. And I might even put you in touch with Brian, who's running one of those. I can send you example of an accountant who helps you to do your accountancy in the UK. But if they're in Hong Kong working for the UK, I don't think they're bound by UK accounting laws, but they can find out.
There's under Hong Kong tax, okay.
They do the Hong Kong stuff, And then the final thing I'll send you is a version of my CV, so you can see how it's sort of laid out and kept nice and snappy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chris.
It's a pleasure, and good luck with everything you're doing for them. I think it's fantastic what you're doing for all of those people.
I just want to keep the connection with the Hong Kong students. So what I'm saying here in UK, I can share some information to them, help them a little bit. Okay, I think it's great to keep this, these connections between Hong Kong and UK.
I think what you're doing is really brilliant. And if you were to look into it, you might even find there could be some grant money available for you if you wanted to look into people in the UK government who might even support you to carry on building those skill sets overseas. Because what you're doing is really helpful for the UK economy. And sometimes the government recognizes that and says, you're doing something helpful for our skills and for a tertiary skill that we will give you something to help you with what you're doing. So you could apply for a grant and say, I'm helping students to become part of the UK economy, and they might send you £10,000 or something to say here's the support for you.
Okay, great. Let me explore.
Have a look into that.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for this.
Brilliant. Nice to chat to you.
Talk to you later. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.